Good morning and happy Sunday to everybody. Welcome to all my beautiful black people. Today we are talking about ETFs, exchange traded funds. What are they? I think they're one of the greatest investment tools we have at our use right now. And so today, Jimmy and I are going to talk about them. We got a whole presentation lined up for them. So come on in, let us know who you are, where you're hailing from, and tell us, what do you know about ETFs? Good morning, Jimmy. How you doing?
Hey, man, how are you, good brother? Man, I'm happy to be here, man. For after this past week, I'm just happy to be here on this Sunday, good brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you sounding a lot better. Before you were sounding worse to me. Now you sounding better to me again.
Man, it's day by day, man. For those who don't know, I was in the house dealing with COVID and whatnot. They try to take your boy out, but I'm here though. That's why I wasn't here Wednesday, a Friday show. But I am here on Sunday. And by the way, I did do a flu game though on Thursday though. I ain't gonna lie, on a webinar. I was on there coughing all crazy, but I pulled up because I promised Camille, so I pulled up, so I was there. But we couldn't make it Friday, but we are here today though, man. We're here today.
Gotcha. Well, listen, welcome everybody to our Sunday Money Church, our Sunday playbook. And again, we're talking about ETFs, exchange traded funds. So let us know, what do you know about ETFs? What do you think about them? I call them the cousins or the little cousins to mutual funds, but they've kind of come a long way over the last, what are we talking, 35 years, 30-ish years?
Yeah, man. I don't know about that little cousin moniker no more, man. Because I feel like they're the big cousin, but that's just me.
But they were there. Mutual funds were here first.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
And technically, I think mutual funds still have more assets than ETFs only because of the 401k played of it all.
This is true. Oh, I just realized I don't think we're streaming on the Buy the Hood Facebook page. I was trying to share it. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to anybody who might be missing it because we ain't on the Facebook page. But it's cool though. We are on the various. You should be watching this, by the way, at blackwealthrebels.com because that's where we need to be at. But I digress, man. ETFs to me are very powerful. We're gonna get into what ETFs are. For those who don't know, on Sunday we try to come here and do we call it our finance church, a little class on everything. Just free classes we want to put out there. And we started with the basics for a reason, because we do talk about trading and we'll get deeper and deeper into trading. But everything that we talk about still encompasses investing and trading. We don't necessarily talk about the plays of the week on the public platforms anymore. You got to go behind the wall to get that. So shout out to everybody who last week saw that we did the class last week, which was what was that? REITs last week, right? We did the REIT class,
yes,
and then and then like behind on blackwealthrebels.com, that's where we went and put the play of the week. What I'm saying? So shout out to all of our plays of the week, man, because our plays of the week since we built Voltron have been on fire, like over a 90% clip. So shout out to everybody who's making money with us. Shout out to everybody in the village, because in the village, you know what I'm saying? I smacked SPY on Monday. I was out down for the count for the rest of the week, but it's cool though, because my Monday was crazy. Cracked damn near 50%. So shout out to everybody who got that trade with me as well. Everybody in the village who got that trade. You
got to show me how to do that, man. You said we was going to show everybody in the village how to do it.
Doug, listen, I've been out for the count, man.
Stop being greedy, man. Stop being greedy.
The great part is though, one thing about being an investor and having having businesses and things that kind of work without you is even when you're down for the count. Here's the great part. I tell you, I have an amazing team around me and everything that I do. I closed on two real estate deals this week. One was a rental property and the other one was actual sale of a property while I was laid up, fighting to breathe.
Stunt 101.
No, it's not a stunt. It's not a stunt. I'm shouting out my sisters.
Listen,
man, I'm shouting out two of my sisters, man. One being Tracy, obviously the boss lady, the broker. Shout out to Tracy.
Shout out to Tracy
tremendously, and also shout out to Liz. Liz held me down. You know what I'm saying? So Liz went to closing. Yeah, she went to closing, held me down, made sure everything went smooth. Well, I said, Liz, I can't. So shout out to Liz. That's our sister. So. But that's the thing about having good folks, good black folks around you. I was able to get some deals done this week while being laid up. Also, by the way, Kamari, I'm just talking right now before we get started. Got me a new baby in the house. It ain't finished putting together, but here it is nonetheless.
You done broke it already.
No, it's not broke. It's not broke. It's not broke, bro. It's not broke, bro. You can't break this. This right here.
Is that like a transformer? What is that?
I'm gonna show you what it is. I'm gonna show you what it is. I'm gonna put it back in its place real fast. I'm gonna show you exactly what this is, man. Because what this is. Boom. Here we go. This is an actual Bitcoin miner. This is brought to you by the good folks at Fold. You know what I'm saying? But this is a Bitcoin miner. So I plug this in. Set it up. Do all my shadowy super coding. You see me with the hoodie on, and next thing you know, I'm getting sats every day. I'm mining Bitcoin. To go with my other miners. That's the newest addition to my miner family. All right, here it is back in this case, though. You know what I'm saying? Damn. Because I didn't finish putting it together. It's not broke. Because here's the thing, though. This is
already.
It's not broke, though. This is the actual miner. What this is to be honest with you, this is this other piece is just a case. That's a 3D printed case just to make it look cute. But this is the actual miner here. But I didn't screw it into the 3D printed case. But the 3D printed case is really just to stun on folks and make it look good and put the Fold branding on it. Because it's
I thought it was like a bumblebee thing or something.
It's a 3D printed case to make it look that way, to put the colors in. But I didn't do the drill part yet because I literally just opened the box like right before we came on. You know what I'm saying? So I already got a couple miners up and running, but none have the Fold branding, you know what I'm saying, with the beautiful case. So I'm about to, set this one up once we finish here so I can get more sats coming. By the way, I say that to say this. Some folks were there on Thursday. Shout out to Nate the Great, who was there on Thursday. I gave a little bit of game out, but the Bitcoin class that I'm doing this year will be the biggest and best Bitcoin class I've ever done, just for the simple fact that I have so much more information. So I've been creating these classes literally every year. So for those that have been following us, we do them annually. I haven't done one for 2025. We did one early 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021. And I'm always adding to it, but also just getting better at explaining and better analogies in terms of getting people to understand why, also how, but also the various tools that are being used. For instance, the last one didn't have anything about mining at home. That'll be part of this. Running a node, Lightning Network, all the different things are being added onto the presentation. So this one coming in 2025 is crazy. And by the way, you got to be in Black Wealth Rebels to get this one. I ain't gonna hold y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna just, this is for the village because I'm going crazy on this one. So I just want to let y'all know, go to blackwealthrebels.com and join us. You know what I mean? We got free tiers, right? So even if if you're a cheapskate, that's cool. Just join the free tier. You dig?
There you
go. What I mean? But we gonna today's topic though is about. Go ahead, Kamar.
Real quick, let's say what's up to the people. Don, Nate the Great, aka Don Johnson, is in the building. Shout out to Don.
Don, what's up?
Don, I appreciate Don so much.
Man.
All right, Lorraine. Listen, I appreciate Lorraine as well. Lorraine be in my inbox now. Man. Oh man, she be sending me some stuff, some fire.
Listen. Lorraine is like one of our producers, man, because Lorraine be sending me stuff that I like. Yes. We gotta talk about this on the show. Lorraine, by the way, everything you send me, I told Kamari, I just started creating a list because a lot of that stuff we're going to start doing one-offs in the village. So Lorraine is like an executive producer of our show. So shout out to Lorraine.
We're going to have to give her EP credit.
And shout out to Carlos too. Carlos is always.
What up, Carlos?
There, Carlos supports the camp. Shout out.
All right.
What up, Carlos?
Dr. Chaz, Doc says she need one.
Dr. Chaz.
All right.
Listen, man.
All right, Jimmy. Well, let's get into it. Let it rip.
Not see you pull my name back up, man. I have my special alias for the day, man. You know I got aliases for days, man. You be
Come on, man.
Disrespecting.
you be being extra, man. What is that? I don't even know how to say that, man.
Read it.
No, you say it.
No, you read it. Why? It was.
You're not gonna have me out here. You're not gonna have me out here looking like I need reading for phonics. Hooked on phonics.
You can't read that, man. You know. I told you I got more aliases than a Wu-Tang member, man. They call me Spyreese Gibson, man. I'm Spyreese Gibson today, man.
So do I need to call you Baby Boy?
Baby Boy is a classic piece of cinema. Let's not get John started, but baby.
All right, Jody.
Here we go. Jody got it right by the end, though, man. He just needed a little bit of help.
He did by a strong black man.
Yeah, I mean, he also, he low key, chose the wrong woman, but we could debate that later.
Oh, really?
I mean, the other woman was holding him down though, like his other baby mom. But I mean, we could debate this later. This is not what this show is about. That's more of a Friday show. You know what I'm saying?
Lord
But
mercy.
I'll make the argument that he chose the wrong woman. But I digress though.
Listen,
Digress.
we are righteous. We are righteous, but we got a lot of ghetto righteousness going on too, y'all, as you see.
I'm just telling you, man. Like you have to look at things with a different lens sometimes, man. That's why you
Not
misunderstand.
sometimes, all the times, but okay, if you say so.
Yeah, you gotta look at things from a macro level. See, this is even about like the market as well. There's a macro level and a micro level. You got to look at things from different ways, man. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, Lorraine, it is Super Bowl Sunday. We will, we are Philadelphians here, so we would be remiss if we didn't mention that the Birds are winning the bowl today. You know what I mean? So look, Don says the same thing. Nate would agree. So I'm not the only one with that assessment of that classic piece of American cinema. But let's get into the class today, man. And for those that are in the village, this piece of just the class will be back there in its own lonesome with Options 101 because SPY, they call me SPY Reese Gibson, is an ETF, and it's a big part of what we do in the options game. But it's much bigger than that. It's deeper than rap. Let's get to sharing. You gotta remind me sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I'm a hip hop head. All right, let's get it. Let's get it. So, Kamari, let me know when we're good to go, and I will get started.
We're ready to go. Let's go.
All right, let's get it. All right, so today we're going to talk about ETFs, right? And understanding exchange-traded funds, also known as ETFs, and why we believe it's a smart investment choice. Myself, as well as my brother Kamari, are huge fans of ETFs. Also, shout out to our brother Corey, who is vacationing right now. So he's on the beaches, enjoying himself with his family. But me and Kamari are going to hold down the fort. But all three of us are fans of ETFs. We're going to talk a little bit about the history, the benefits of ETFs, and we have a tax guy here, so we had to add tax advantages to this presentation, because that's what Kamari loves to talk about. but I digress.
But I mean, quick aside. Actually, my first love is ETFs and stocks.
Really?
So I used to professionally manage an ETF portfolio.
Okay.
And I used to write about them and all kinds of stuff. So I love ETFs. I think they're excellent.
It's funny because I became an ETF convert. I was a huge mutual fund guy. Now, I mean, obviously individual stocks as well, but I was a big fan of mutual funds. I used to have a 3-fund portfolio when I first got started after Coca-Cola, McDonald's, a couple individual stocks. I had bought a 3-fund portfolio, which was Vanguard mid cap, Vanguard large cap, Vanguard small cap. And I was like, and then I started studying. I'm like, what the hell am I buying all three of these caps for? I can just buy the S&P. But it's part of my journey. But I was studying mutual funds. I always thought mutual funds were powerful.
They are. They still are. But
they still are.
Not as powerful as ETFs.
I've done a complete 180 with it to the point where I only hold one mutual fund now, and that's because it's in a deferred compensation account. Everything else that I own in terms of this space would be in ETFs, and I think ETFs are more advantageous for a lot of the reasons we're getting ready to talk about. But it was a journey of going through mutual funds to get to the ETFs, right? And let's talk about it, right? So let's start with what is an ETF for those that don't know, who may be new to the markets. And again, we're going back to the basics as we build out this Options 101 course, because a lot of times people like to get into the more fancy things and some of the, the I don't want to use none of the crazy terminology, but get into more advanced plays and straddles and all sorts of, margin, all kinds of crazy things without talking about the basics in terms of what is a stock or what is an ETF. We talked about REITs last week, and one of the questions we got in that when I brought up an ETF in the REIT conversation was, what is an ETF? So let's go back to the basics of an ETF. So it's an investment fund that holds securities that trade like a stock. Now, this could be commodities, this could be currency, this can be a specific sector. It can be, all different types of ETFs. But the idea that I like to always tell people that it's a basket. I think the way to look at it as a basket of securities is a great way. If I'm buying an individual stock, I'm buying an individual stock. But if I'm buying a basket of stocks or a basket of because I'm make sure I say more than stocks because I don't want Kamari to, to get angry at me because he always reminds me that commodities and, although most people
currencies, bonds.
Currencies, yes, everything, bonds, everything could be an ETF. And he's absolutely correct. But a lot of times I always talk about the stock ETFs because
that's what's most popular. I get it.
Yeah,
I get
it's definitely most popular, right? But it is what it is, right? The thing about it is it trades like a stock. It's diversified. It tends to have low expense ratios and is very transparent in terms of the ability to see what's going on within the ETF in just the paper trail and trading it on the market. Now, historically speaking, it was developed by, I think the guy was a physicist named Nathan. His last name, believe it or not, his last name was Nathan, by the way.
How funny.
His name was Nathan Mose. His name was Nathan Mose. So, and by the way, that's not a joke. His real name was Nate. Nathan Mose was the inventor of the ETF. And the idea was he just wanted something that was more liquid. He loved mutual funds. He actually met with Jack Bogle, talked about it. And initially, Jack Bogle didn't like the idea of an ETF because he thought that it would produce more people trading as opposed to just buying long-term, buy and hold. But Nathan Mose didn't like the idea that you had to, do an exchange once a day, and it just wasn't as liquid. So he created the ETF, and, this is where we are today. But always remember that it trades like a stock. It's diversified. It has a low expense ratio, and it's transparent. Those are key features of an ETF. So 1990, we had what was known as the Toronto 35 Index participation units, also known as TIPS in Canada. 1993, Nathan Mose was behind this, which was the U.S. ETF Spider S&P 500, which is, known as SPY. That's why they call me Spy Reese Gibson, but I digress. In the 2000s, we started seeing sector-specific and thematic ETFs emerge, right? So I can get a real estate ETF that it just has real estate or technology or healthcare or energy or retail. There's so many thematic ETFs that emerge in 2010s to present. Now we see actively managed and crypto ETFs, right? So the Bitcoin ETF was recent, which was 2024. And as an aside, this isn't a Bitcoin show. And I didn't get to do my Bitcoin podcast last week because I was under the weather. But, so I had to put some Bitcoin in this one. Fact of the matter is the Bitcoin ETF is the most successful ETF launch to date, believe it or not. If you look at the flows that have come in, via the ETF. So that's where we are. So we started with one thing, and then we progressed to now having more sector and theme ETFs. Now we even have crypto ETFs. Ethereum has ETFs now. So there's all kinds of different ETFs that you have available to you. And by the way, for those that are watching this in the chat, let us know what your favorite type of ETF is. And, we'll talk about that as we get through the presentation. So why ETFs can be a great investment? Diversification for one. So it exposes you to multiple assets with one purchase, right? That's one way to look at it, diversification. Number two, liquidity. This is one of the things that I tend to value when it comes to an ETF is liquidity. It trades on the stock exchange during market hours. Now, I'm not someone that likes to trade in and out of stocks per se, but the idea of liquidity is very appealing to me. I've shared this on several classes and shows that I'm trying to figure out, how to quantify liquidity, right? As someone who comes from real estate who deals with a really an illiquid asset, the idea of liquidity has always been very interesting to me, but how to quantify it in terms of numerically. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Lower costs. You have lower expense ratios than mutual funds, generally speaking. So this means that you're able to get that diversification in a liquid asset, and it's not going to cost you as much in terms of expenses that it would cost you to have a mutual fund. Why is that important? It's important because a lot of mutual funds have ETF, as Kamari calls them, cousins or sisters. So if we're talking about the S&P 500 to keep it basic, I can buy, VFIAX, or I can buy VU. VU is way more liquid, because it trades on the stock exchange. So if I'm looking at something that's literally the same thing, why would I then buy something with a higher expense and something that isn't as liquid when I can, and I know there are people who will be on the other side because they believe that ETFs will, like Jack Bogle said, lead you to jumping in and out of them more frequently than you would a mutual fund.
I mean, that is true to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I also feel that, in proportion. I don't think people are buying or selling ETFs any more than they would had they brought the mutual fund, if they're buying it for that reason. Now, yes, you can trade ETFs way easier. They're optionable a lot of times, but it's not necessary. If you want to buy something for the long haul, you're not necessarily trying to jump in and out of it. So it's fine. And by the way, I'm seeing some of y'all questions come in. We'll save them till the end and we'll get at those.
Yeah, some great questions already and great comments too. Shout out to our brother Pass, who's in the building as well. Transparency, right? So ETFs disclose holdings daily. And that's also another thing that people like about ETFs is that I can see what's being held within the ETF on a daily basis. It's very transparent. And then I can even dig deeper and look into those specific holdings if I want to see what's going on with those holdings. This is the argument that our sister Courtney often makes because she's someone that we had a long conversation before about ETFs versus mutual funds. And number 5 on this list here was her reason for loving ETFs. I'll let you explain this one because you are the tax god. So it said that ETFs are have less capital gains tax compared to mutual funds, and I'll let you explain that, beloved.
Well, usually every year when you're buying mutual funds, they have to do a rebalancing and some kind of capital gains is created. The creation of it, not being too technical, of ETFs versus mutual funds are different. And so with the ETF, it's not created the same. So the same level of capital gain / taxation doesn't occur annually like it does with a mutual fund. And so I would agree with Courtney 1,000%, because why get the same mutual fund as ETF when you can avoid the tax problems? The only reason to me is like you talked about by buying in defined contribution plan, aka 401k, 403b, 457. But guess what? You don't have the tax problems when you own the side of those vehicles. So that's really the only reason why I would see you needing to get a mutual fund anyway.
Okay. All right, there we go. So tax efficiency, another reason why. So here's the other part. People like ETFs because they like to trade them as well. For us traders, right? We're talking about options as well. You can trade ETFs. And for some people, specifically those getting just started in trade, I always say that you trade an ETF because it doesn't move as fast as an underlying if it's just an individual company. But it's a feature of an ETF, right? Mutual funds are priced only once daily. When an ETF has it's constantly priced on the market and you can trade it, right? So expense ratios are typically lower and mutual funds can be higher. The tax efficiency, as we mentioned, is generally more efficient, potentially less efficient, and also that transparency, where you can see daily. So when it comes to mutual funds, that's generally quarterly or monthly. So that would be a key difference, right? And again, we're not here to bash mutual funds because they still have a place, for specific investors. But me personally, I've moved all the way over to ETFs. Like I said, I only own one mutual fund because it's in an account that it has to be a mutual fund. Outside of that,
yeah, but it's not bashing. I mean, what happened is this is an advance in technology. That's all it is. And so it's like, you love Bitcoin, Jimmy. Why? Because it's efficient, technologically speaking, and investment-wise. So that's all it is the technology was able to keep up and make some changes, and that's why ETFs are now a better option. That's all.
Yeah.
It's not shade. It's not shade.
It is funny, right? Because we come on here every weekend and we have these conversations, and I say stuff that goes against, some of the stuff we teach, but I believe it, and I believe in being honest, right? So I come on here every week and we talk about options, and I say 99% of people shouldn't trade options, right? I feel like 99% of people shouldn't own individual stocks, right? ETFs probably should be the best solution for most people. And again, anything I say is not financial advice. This is for educational, informational purposes only. I am nobody's fiduciary. I'm just giving my opinion, right? And my opinion is based on being an investor who has the experience that I have in terms of the financial services industry, being someone who's a former licensed securities agent, who's worked in different spaces. What I've seen over the years is that most people should take an approach of just buying the S&P or whatever that ETF is and just going ahead and mind their business and enjoying life and figuring out ways to make more income to then buy more. That's how most people should operate.
Come on, man. Most people don't want to be like most people. Most people want to be great. They want to be special.
I mean, I understand that, right? You know, but you are special, right? You are special being yourself. All of us are special, right? So, but the fact of the matter is, you know, it's data. I'm looking at the data. I'm looking at the
And data
return.
will tell you most people are not special. Let's be honest, Jimmy.
No, we are special, man. We all are special, man.
Not in the
Don't listen to
markets.
Kamari.
Most
Don't
people
listen
are
to
not
Kamari.
special
We
in the
all
markets.
are special, right?
I'm
We
just
all are
saying.
special.
I'm just saying.
Tap into your gifts, people. Don't listen to Kamari. But what I'm saying, as it pertains to investing, most
They're
people
not special. I'm just saying.
You all are special. You all are God's children, man. Anyway, listen, with all that being said though, man, you all are special. But as it pertains to investing, most people should take the approach of just buying, you know, a broad-based ETF and go minding their business, and then figuring out how to improve your skill set to get more cash flow to then put into said investment and grow said investment. You know what I mean? But I digress. Let's talk about the tax differences between ETFs and mutual funds, man. So Kamari, I'll let you talk about this specific slide because again, you're the tax guy.
Well, it's pretty much the same thing what I just said. When you look on the slide on the right where it talks about ETFs and con creation, right? When these ETFs are being created, the companies, let's use Vanguard, they're actually buying each individual stock that is making up the basket. And then so when you buy an ETF, you actually own the individual underlying. When you are buying a mutual fund, you don't own the underlying. You are buying the fund. And again, it might sound super technical, but it's really not. The mutual funds are manufacturing that product, while the ETFs is a little bit different because all of that is still passed through. And so the capital gains, a lot of times in the mutual funds, are passed through. That jacks up a lot of taxable situations, and it comes through annually. And that's why I tend to stay away from them altogether.
Okay. All right. There we go. So you heard it from the tax guy, right?
But there's one thing right.
Go ahead.
So for example, and it made me remember, the only taxation you're going to get from an ETF is whatever dividends you're making from that said ETF. And when you sell it, if there is any gain, all right, from a mutual fund, again, you have the dividends, you have the capital gains regardless. So you don't have as much control over the assets taxation wise as you do. And that's really, really important as we start to really, because I'm going to really start pushing y'all about why it's important to be tax efficient in everything you do. Because there's no need in giving Uncle Sam extra money that he So, all right, Jimmy, you can go to the next slide.
Excellent. So types of ETFs, right? We have index ETFs, right? So they track the major indices, you know, SPY, skips and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? So we have sector that's focused on specific industries. We have bond ETFs. You know, Kamari likes to remind me of bonds because, you know, I don't mess with bonds for the most part. I think that in 2025, if you still buy, no, I'm gonna save that. Government and corporate bonds, you can buy a bond ETF. We have commodity ETFs, things like gold or oil, which I think are very powerful. Then you have thematic ETFs that focus on trends like AI. So there's AI ETFs now. You know, we have ETFs with semiconductors and all kinds of stuff like that. And then you have actively managed ETFs, where people are trying to outperform the actual market, and they have an ETF that they put together to do so. So these are just various types of ETFs, but the idea is there's a plethora of ETFs that you can choose from when you get into the space. It's not like you just have to buy S&P 500. Yes, sir.
And Jimmy, another classification of ETF for currency. So if you wanted to buy the yen, the euro, to buy it, you could buy those as well.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? I know that we talk about the S&P a lot, and it's a reason for it. It's because, you know, I believe in most people buy the index and chill. They'll be fine over the long haul. It's funny. Last night I was creating this is some real like nerdy stuff, but it's what I do in my free time sometimes. I go into Google Sheets and I just start to like calculate things. So I was looking at some real estate that I've held, right? The real estate that I've held for the longest period of time, which at this point, I think the longest property that I've owned is, man, it's over 25 years at this point. But I was going over these properties and I'm sitting there like, what would have happened, right? I was trying to go back and figure out what was the down payment that I took to buy this property. And what would have happened if I took that down payment and just put it into the S&P 500? Would I have had more money? And I would say 90% of the time I would have had more money with less stress just putting it in the S&P 500. And this is after owning those properties for a couple decades. Now, my tax guy is here, so he's going to tell you that I wouldn't have had the tax advantages and all those great things. But just looking at it from a pure number standpoint, the S&P 500 index ETF is just amazing, right? To me, it's one of the more amazing things. And I know people are always trying to beat that index, and people will talk to you against it. But to me, just looking at that, to me, it's one of the more powerful things that not that I've discovered, but the more powerful things that I've used in all my years of investing and trading is literally just putting money in the S&P and not doing anything. It's very boring. It's not sexy. This doesn't get clicks online when I say this, but it's one of the more powerful things, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Kamari?
So, Jimmy, what I would say is I actually agree with you. And you already know that, right? Because take tax out of it, right? Time. How much time did you have to spend on said properties, whether it's showing them, renting them, maintaining them, paying taxes on them, right? Keeping them up. I would say that if we figure out what your hourly rate is, and we add that into the mix, you probably make more money on your S&P 500 ETF.
Here's the funny part. I make more money on it without doing all that. And if I add all that into it, it's not even going to be close. And that's the thing about and this is not a real estate bashing thing, because I also think that that's an argument for REIT ETFs, right?
Correct.
Because one of the things that I recognize about a lot of investors who invest in other things, right? They don't look at their CapEx. They don't really talk about expenses, and they don't look at their time. What you said is very, very, very true, is the time that you actually have to spend. Are you valuing your time? A lot of times people, specifically in real estate, because that's my sector, right? People will say, I don't use a property manager, so I'm not paying X, but they're not valuing their time as doing the property management themselves. Your time is valuable.
Right.
And I say that to say a lot of times, and this is an ETF conversation, because when you're buying an ETF, you're leveraging everyone else's time. If I buy a sector-specific ETF, let's just take any sector that you want to name, all the companies within that ETF, those people, when they get up and go to work every day, are working for you. So you talk about leverage. You're leveraging human time, which is completely different than just leveraging capital. So to me, ETFs are very powerful. I think
that's human capital, right?
That's human capital. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So the four agents of production in economics, when you learn economics. So I say that to say ETFs allow you to have a crazy amount of leverage when you talk about a whole basket, whether it's an industry, indice, whatever it may be. And that's why I think it's one of the most powerful things on the entire market. And that includes everything from options to individual companies. I think the ETF is probably, in my personal opinion, one of the more powerful things that we have. And why I'm a huge fan of ETFs.
Well, Jimmy, let me share this with you real quick before we get back to the presentation, right? So what do we talk about when we talk about property management? I think it's taxes, termites, and tenants. I think there was another one, right?
It's taxes, toilets, termites, and tenants. Right. The 4 T's we hate.
Okay, so I got to add a new one, right? So yesterday I'm out doing my property management duties, and I finally get to see one of the units of one of my tenants' units. So she's got a cat, she's got a rabbit, and she's got guinea pigs.
What?
And I'm just sitting there like, I can't even address all that. I'm just like, okay. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like, okay, I'll have to come back to this.
I don't know how we get a T. We got to find a way to put a T word with that. But yeah, that's something else.
And then not to mention, right, so I showed Jimmy a letter the other day I got from my tenant, y'all. Says they haven't had heat for 2 months. So they're not paying their rent. So I finally tracked this person down. And I asked him, I said, have you tried your thermostat yet? This was at about 1 o'clock yesterday. He said, he'll go up in the June and he'll try it out. This guy did not call me back at all. I had to call him twice and like, yo, did you try it out yet? So it's like you put this major demand and you don't want to pay rent in because you ain't got heat. But now I'm asking you about the heat. And you're not even stepping forward for it. So what does that tell you? Now I got to spend more time on this thing, right? That's why I
Yeah.
always tell you, like, this ain't even about the heat. This is about something else. And now I got to play property manager / psychologist. So yeah, stick to the REITs.
Hey
Stick to
man,
the REITs.
you about to turn this ETF conversation into a landlord branch conversation. I had one recently where the lady was complaining about heat, and I said the same thing. Did you cut the heat on? And then she was like, "Oh, I didn't know I had to cut it on." Yeah. So anyway, man, but this is about ETFs. But this is the thing.
I say all that to say, Jimmy. So I want to be buying more ETFs, like you said, instead of trying to buy more property.
Understood. Listen, I am not mad at you, beloved. I haven't bought a property in a little while now because honestly, in order for me to buy a piece of land and a property, it's going to have to, the numbers will have to make so much sense because of all the alternatives that, are at my disposal.
Right.
But that's the good thing about learning how things work, right? Is because now, and there's nothing wrong with real estate. Don't get me wrong. Real estate to me is still one of the best. It's probably the best business there is, but you have to buy right. And by buying right is don't buy just because you can get approved for a mortgage. Buy because the actual numbers make sense. And what we talk about all the time, Kamari, opportunity costs, right? Yeah. I'd rather have more sats. My Bitcoin doesn't ask me to shovel snow. Anyway, let's get back to the presentation, beloved. I see you took it down. I can't pull it.
No, it's still up.
All right, is it? I'm looking on the YouTube. It's not up there no more. Let me see.
It's up there now.
All right, cool. All right, so let's keep it moving. There we go. All right, so some risks to consider when we talk about ETFs, right? Obviously, you always have market risk, where the ETF's value will fluctuate with market conditions. Liquidity risk, low trading volume in niche ETFs is one of the reasons why people stick to the indices and things of that nature. Because when you start talking about those specialty ETFs or those trends, those emerging trends, a lot of times you may have low trading volume. So pay attention to that if that's the space that you're operating in. So tracking error, right? If you're trying to track an actual index, if it's imperfect. So that's why a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go into the specific ETF that I have and I'll see what the holdings are. And then I see what's, tracked in that specific index. And also pay attention to expense ratios. Just because it's an ETF does not mean that it will have a low expense ratio. Some of them do have higher expense ratios. You have to really pay attention to that, right? We talked earlier about, generally speaking, if they have a sister mutual fund, they will have a lower expense ratios, but it's not always 100% correct. And not all ETFs have low expense ratios. So you have to really pay attention to that. So those are some risks to consider if you're looking in the ETF space. How to invest in ETFs? Well, obviously, you choose a brokerage account, right? And decide on the ETF based on your specific goals. One of the things that we want to talk about every time we do a class on Sunday is figuring out what works for you. I always tell you what I do, but that doesn't mean that's what you should do. It doesn't mean that you should do what Kamari does, right? Place an order and you monitor and adjust your portfolio, right? So we do talk about ETFs and chill. Doesn't mean that you don't, whether it's every quarter, semi-annually, or every year, look at what ETFs you hold to see if that your goals, still align with what it is that you hold. Maybe your goals are changing, right? I think that an ETF that you're buying at 19 will be different than if you're getting ready to retire from your job and now your money has to be allocated differently. So, things change, life changes. Well, as Corey often talks about, like, look, you got to make sure you're checking your brokerage account anyway, because maybe you want to change who you're leaving your money to because your kid pissed you off. But just monitor your accounts and make sure you always stay focused on whatever goals that you may have. So in conclusion, while we believe that ETFs are a smart choice, right? Let's get back to it. Diversification, the exposure to diverse assets, and you reduce your risk by spreading them out. I believe in diversification, but only to a certain extent. I believe that, and I think that this is something that we can probably do a whole class on, because I hear the adage all the time, every millionaire has a gazillion streams of income, and you never focus on one and get good at that. So I think that applies in investing sometimes too. That I think I've seen some people's portfolio.
I hate that term.
I hate it too, bro. I hate it with a passion, but I also have sat down with people whose portfolio is too diverse, where you have 2,000 companies that you put $2 a piece into, and it's like you'll never get anywhere doing that, right? So, and sometimes you can have overlapping investments, meaning that you're buying multiple ETFs and they're doing the same thing.
But that used to be one of my favorite things to do when I was an advisor, because it would be ETFs or mutual funds, and a large overlap of them might be, let's say, Microsoft or GE at the time when I was an advisor. And it's like you do realize they're all doing the same thing, and if they all fall, they're all going to crash your portfolio. But
yes,
nobody really thinks about that, sadly.
yeah. So so diversification is its own conversation. Liquidity, right? My favorite thing about ETFs is the liquidity. Easy to buy and sell during market hours. That's another thing about say being in the REIT space, the ETF space versus real estate, right? Imagine, and I tell this story several times. I've had a situation historically. I had a client who owned millions of dollars of real estate, went through a divorce. He kept his property, but he messed up his credit through the divorce, and it was kind of nasty too because they were like not paying each other's bills, intentionally trying to hurt each other.
Oh, wow.
Messed up his credit. So he had millions of dollars in real estate and couldn't really tap into it. He had to do all kinds of craziness and pay all kinds of exorbitant fees to tap into millions of dollars of equity. And that taught me a lesson too. Like,
be good to your wife.
Yeah, that's two things. That's one thing too. Yeah. First off, pick the right person that won't be that nasty, right? Because in the words of a man who I shall not name, when the woman's fed up, it can get
all right, Robert.
No, we can't mention that name. We don't mention the name. I'm not trying to get canceled out here. But with that being said, though, TP2 is still a fire album. But no, see, Kamara keeps sidetracking me. Liquidity is important, though, right? So it's easy to buy and sell during market hours, right? The tax efficiency that Kamari talked about gives you a potentially lower tax burden. It's important to talk about. And as you guys can see, we're making taxes part of every conversation we have. We talked about taxes as it pertains to REITs and using retirement accounts to do that. Taxes as it pertains to ETFs, because taxes are an important part of the equation. The low cost, lower fees compared to mutual funds, right? Reduce your costs. It's interesting because I read a lot of biographies on like entrepreneurs and people who've achieved great things. And one of the things that is like across the board, like I was recently rereading a Sam Zell biography, but it doesn't matter whether I'm reading Sam Zell, whether I'm reading Ben Franklin, whether I'm reading about Reginald Lewis, whether I'm reading about anyone, Hetty Green. One thing they all have in common, and I realized this recently, is every entrepreneur book that I read or autobiography or biography is they all talk about lowering costs, no matter what the business is, right? And the reason is, like, we always talk about what you can make in terms of your ROI. But if you keep your costs low, right? If I keep my costs extremely low and you have high costs and you have a higher ROI, it doesn't mean you're making more money than me, right? If you have more costs, right? Warren Buffett talks about this as well. So, it's just something that I've realized recently in reading a book. I'm like, wow, every entrepreneur always talks about costs. Like, even more so than ROI is keeping those costs down. Because if I have lower costs, I don't need the same ROI, right? Anyway, that's another tangent I went off on, but I digress. Flexibility. Your exposure to broad or specific sectors. That's very important as it pertains to ETFs, is the flexibility you get in using an ETF. And they're ideal for different types of investors, long-term and active traders, right? Every day, I know Chas is in the building. We and Chas go out there and we rumble SPY. We try to, make SPY pay us our reparations. So we use ETFs in our daily trading, long-term. I told you guys about the position that I'm building in Top T. So it's like that last little point here on the slide, I'm proof positive of that. I use it both long-term and actively trade. So ETFs are very important. And, Kamari would agree with me. And as I say this, I think it's probably top 3 to 5 or maybe top 3 investment vehicles that we have out there. Might be number 1. What do you think, Kamari? What do you think is the number 1 investment? Never mind. I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
Life insurance.
But the life insurance is not an investment vehicle.
Okay.
So, like, they're very specific things.
Okay.
I think ETFs.
So, all right. So, from an investment vehicle standpoint, where would you rank ETFs?
Number 1.
Okay.
But I'm biased also, right? I'm biased, but yeah.
I'm biased too.
All right, so let's get back started with some great questions. Nate would agree. God, we got to talk about Nate all the time.
All right, so let me.
Y'all killing me.
Let me.
All right, Don Johnson there.
Get my full screen back and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So Don Johnson asked the question: if you sell out of a mutual fund and buy an ETF, is there a tax hit inside a taxable brokerage account? Yes, there is. Depending upon when you brought the mutual fund. You had to figure out what's called basis. That's a tax term. So let's say you bought it for $1 and you sold it for $2. Shout out to Prop Joe. You like that? You like that wire bar? See, Jimmy
That was
thinks
fire. That was fire. I get listen. When you good, you're good, beloved. Pause.
bars,
That was good. That was excellent.
why we gotta say pause for that, man? Come on, man. You messing me up.
Go ahead. You got it.
But no, there would be a taxable event for that, Don. One thing some people like to do, though, and it's not tax related, they try to avoid the day trading rule. So if they're trying to day trade mutual funds, which is super hard to do, they'll sell out of one thing and then buy something that's similar, so they still get to participate in the market. But no, there is no tax it.
Now that ETFs exist, why would one even try to trade a day trade a mutual fund? Doesn't it make sense to do so?
Listen, I don't understand a lot of these things that happen out here, but what up, Javelle?
What up, though? Detroit's in the building.
Pass us here. Index ETFs as thematic ETF and high expense ratios. That is true.
Yep.
That is very, very true.
Yep.
And you got to be, especially some of the actively managed ones, you got to be really, really careful.
Peace.
All right, Sharon. What up? Welcome. All right, Jigga holds VU. We're considering top T. Shout out to Jimmy for that.
Real quick, let me say something about that. Right. So VU is the S&P 500, Vanguard's S&P 500. I have a considerable position in top T, but I do want to warn folks that the thing about top T versus VU is the rides will be a lot crazier on top T versus VU. Because for those who don't know what top T is, it's the top 20 of the S&P, where VU is the entire S&P. So what that means is when we have drops, I'm gonna have some wild drops in comparison to VU, right? So just keep that in mind. But also when we go on the other way, right? So it could be a little bit more extreme because it doesn't have all those other companies to kind of balance that ride out. So just keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is.
What up, Anthony?
Who makes in the building?
All right, Pat says 95% of people in the market need to ETF and chill. Man, that's a bar.
Yes.
That might be a shirt too, by the way. We'll definitely give you royalties on that. Even if you end up picking a great stock, it is often more luck than skill. That's a fact. For every Amazon, there's a web van. I don't even remember.
Web van. I gotta look that up.
No, it came out during the whole internet craze. Yeah.
I remember pets.com. I remember a lot of them joints though.
Well, pets.com actually did good, but that was
some trash with that. Pets.com did yeah, okay.
I'm saying considerably. All right, the problem is most people are too impatient to get rich slowly and end up getting poor quickly. Pass is cooking.
Yeah, he put his apron on this morning.
I think it's built in. All right, do the mutual funds charge fees? Yes, they do. And they're all kind of fees when it comes to mutual funds, depending on who you get them from, where you get them from, and all of that. So you got to be careful. Typically, when you get mutual funds through financial advisors, they come with loaded fees. So just be careful with some of those. What type of ETF does Bitcoin fall into? I would say specialty. What would you call it, Jimmy?
Probably a commodity. Bitcoin is considered a commodity.
Okay.
A commodity.
Investing in stock creative people on the earth work to make you more money. Yep. And shout out to Don, because I actually saw him say that like 2 days ago on his Facebook post. It's about not having the money to pay rent. All right, Lorraine says, not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. Correct.
Lower cost.
Correct.
Yeah, man.
What up, Brandon?
Brandon, what's good?
All right, Brandon, I'm a newbie starting off, and I plan to start off my brokerage account soon. Will ETFs be the best thing to invest in? I would say yes. However, this is not investment advice. This is for
Brandon. My answer to that question. my answer to that question is it would depend upon everything else that you have going on in your financial life, right? So, what's your debt situation look like? Do you have savings, right? The first thing you may want to, it's not really investment, it's savings, is to have a couple dollars put to the side. You got $1,000, at least $1,000 saved, right? That's the minimum. But in terms of just if you're looking for an investment vehicle, not investment advice, ETF would be a good place to start as you learn, right? And obviously the first thing I would say is I think the base is S&P 500. Take a look at that and then follow it for a while. But yeah, I think the best thing about starting and being
just made a recommendation.
I didn't make a recommendation at all. I'm just let me finish. What I'm saying is the thing about that is then you can get to study. And I think the best thing about starting off is not necessarily what you buy, whether it's ETF or anything else, is to really get into the books and the study and figure out why you're going to buy whatever you're going to buy.
Because like Jimmy's saying, right, just because you buy and you start doesn't mean you stop learning. You never stop learning.
Never.
Learning is lifelong.
Never. Okay.
All right, Jimmy says wasn't going to switch out. All right, considering in addition to, got you.
Yeah, he's talking about the VU versus top T conversation. No, I respect that. Listen, listen, man. Jamil's from Detroit, man, so they got all the paper, man. Big Meech home, so he, Jamil eating again, so I get it.
Yeah, I hope he's able to survive this whole Rick Ross.
I hope he gets off the internet. Everybody don't got to be on the internet.
I don't think he is though, right? Because Big Meech was always on top. Pause. Right. Mm-hmm. So he would naturally be on the internet or social media if he
I get it, but like
he that bold.
Man, it's just weird. Like anyway. But that's a whole other conversation. That's a in the village conversation. Me and Kamari will have more of our ratchet conversations behind the village. Shout out to everybody who watched the video we did in the village last week. We did a video strictly for the village last week. What were we talking about, Kamari? Oh, talking about how the power that we have, whether we know it or not. Anyway, let's conclude this ETF conversation. This is the end of the ETF presentation. We are here to answer more questions. If anybody has any more questions, thoughts, comments, concerns about ETFs. We've kind of, given a little bit of the history, how they came to be. Shout out to Nate for creating ETF. Not a joke, Kamari. Nate didn't create the ETF. All right, so Nate created the ETF. And by the way, if y'all don't believe me, again, I tell everybody when you watch our content, don't take anything I say, go look it up. Go look up Nate who created the ETF. There was a Nate who created the ETF. I ain't calling no 60-year-old man doing nothing. We refer to him as Demetrius Sr. I heard that. That's hilarious. Shout out to Jamil, man. He's Demetrius Sr. Senior makes it sound even funnier. Anyway, man, so that is it about ETFs, though. If you are watching the replay behind the wall and you see this, still leave your comments, concerns, questions, or whatever it may be. In terms of what we were looking at this week and everything, we're going to get ready to shoot another video, put that behind the wall in the village. So you guys can take a look at that. Man, anything else you want to talk about before we got out of here this Sunday, church, man?
No, not much. I am interested though. What are some of? I think you asked this question already though. What are some of y'all's favorite ETFs? Because I know a lot of y'all are already investing in ETFs.
Yeah, passive index. And I know that Jamil said VU. I know Don is the ETF god. Don, what's your ETF portfolio? What ETFs are you messing with these days, Don?
Well, Don loves the Vanguards, I believe.
Yeah, that's why we call him VDon. We call him VDon.
Right.
He's like Vanguard put the V on it. He's VDon for that reason. But I know he was a VGT guy. I'll tell you my specific ETFs because my whole portfolio, 90% of my portfolio is in 3 ETFs, right? Which are in terms of my stock portfolio is which are XLRE, Top T, and IBIT. Don is VU, VTI, VGT, and VYM. Don, I do have a question for you, right? Looking at the idea that you hold VU and VTI, is it a reason that you hold both? Because I know most people, when they look at VU or VTI, there's such a crazy overlap. They generally hold one or the other.
Exposure.
Huh?
He want that international exposure.
Okay.
I mean, that's what my guess is.
Okay.
That's what my guess is. Nah, you ain't got
no.
What?
No.
What?
So VTI is an international. I mean, VTI is a total stock market. So, I mean, I guess you could say somewhat, but the S&P 5. So the thing about VTI is VTI and VU tend to run like parallel because VU is so heavy in the VTI.
They're very much correlated.
But most people only have one or the other, right? So, I mean,
I would agree.
So I was just wondering, like, what's his logical reasoning behind that? VGT, we know that's the tech. And VYM, that's the yield, right? So I think that's the yield.
Yeah, I think that's the dividend yield. Yeah.
Oh, you just don't hold them both. You look them as interchangeable. Also, we're saying VU or VT. Got you.
Yeah.
So I guess your big three. Shout to Kendrick. We'll see him at halftime. Your big three is I guess one of those two, VGT and VYM. Okay. And we got Brent C said PEY SDIV.
Well, we'll go ahead. And we'll come right back to you. So SDIV is I forget whose dividends that is.
Well, I know PEY is also a high yield joint too. But it looks like you're a dividend investor, you know what I'm saying? Because I know SDIV is what super dividends. So Brent is about that dividend life. So Lorraine, who trades, Lorraine says hers is SPY, QQQ, and IWM. Let's see what else.
Now, are those holds, Lorraine? Or those? Oh, she said trading.
She said trading. You
got any holds, Lorraine, long term, or is everything's up for play here? So, all right, Ray-Ban says I got a lot from this one. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you.
No, thanks for the feedback, Ray-Ban. That's dope. Thank you. Appreciate you saying that. What else do we have? Oh, about we call it SHID. It's the SHID. Shout out to Charles Schwab. You know what I'm saying? That's my business partner, Charles Schwab. I mean, it's quality. I know a lot of folks who love that so much that they literally go 100%. I would never do that. A lot of what happens in that fund I get from Top T, but I do understand why people like SHID. So I have nothing bad to say about it. It's good. It's good. I mean, it overlaps the S&P a little bit. And that's the other thing about ETF. So you can use a lot of ETF comparison tools to see how certain ETFs perform versus the other one. So, that's what it is, man. But this is an excellent conversation. ETFs are very powerful. I agree. I don't know if it's number one on my list, but if it's not number one,
well, we know it's number one on your list.
If it ain't better than big, it's the closest one. In the words of Sean Corey Carter.
Thank
it
you,
might
Andrew.
be number two. Shout to Rock Noxious. I appreciate the comment, even though you telling us what it is. I appreciate that. Shout to Rock. We all about that engagement life, so we appreciate that.
And do us a favor, y'all. I'm not seeing none of y'all liking this over there on the YouTube. So if you are on the YouTubes, make sure you like it over there, and make sure you subscribe to the Black Wolf Rebels YouTube page, y'all.
Yes. Ant is talking about SHID when he says that it has a cult-like following. They have a whole subreddit talking about it. And I've been on the subreddit. It's wild. And they will literally compare it to every investment, right? They compare it to literally anything: gold, Bitcoin, VU, and they do have a cult-like following. I'm not gonna lie about that. They definitely do.
But so does SPY, so does GOD. So, I mean, yeah.
I mean, this is true. I guess that's we live in an age of cults now. So every kind of investment does, right? You do, because I see gold has theirs. I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin because people tell me that Bitcoin is a religion. So I'm not even going to get into that. All praises due though. All praises due.
You disrespectful.
You know what I'm saying? All right. Anyway, I do not have any positions in ETFs. Will start to add to my portfolio during the upcoming dips.
Gotcha.
Here's Pass. That's another great point, Pass. I'm glad you made this point because before we get out of here, we do got to talk about this. Pass is a nice combo punches QQQM and SHID with percentages based upon your age. For example, 60-40 younger and 40-60 close to retirement. The idea of the combo ETF is also fire. There's a book called The 3 Fund Portfolio that was written by the Bogleheads, who talks about the idea of just taking 3 funds. But you can also apply that in ETFs as well. by doing certain combos to get exposure. So when one goes up, blah, blah, blah. So I think that combo is definitely dope. You know what I mean? The combo I use a 3-fund combo, you know what I'm saying? Top T, IBIT, and XLRE. So, and it's for various reasons. You know what I'm saying? I get my income from XLRE, Bitcoin, it's my hedge, and Top T is my actual investment. Top 20. You dig? And if all my Bitcoiners out there like, why are you still buying IBIT? Listen, majority of my stack, if I had one, because I lost it all in a boating accident, is in cold storage, but I like using IBIT for strategic purposes as it pertains to real estate, and also being able to have it in IRAs, because I'm a huge IRA guy. So Brandon says, do y'all trade crypto as well? So Brandon,
Jimmy has forbid it. He forbids it. He don't even like us mentioning it. But go ahead, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
I am a Bitcoiner. I believe that you should stack sats, or as a matter of fact, here we go. We stack sats or we die trying, which is the greatest Bitcoin podcast on the internet. I'm a Bitcoiner. I believe that all other things are shit coins. They're all scams. In terms of trading price action, do what you want to do. To me, it's a waste of time, because I beat most traders and actually outperform most hedge fund managers over the last half decade by doing nothing but buying Bitcoin and minding my business and finding ways to get more capital to buy more Bitcoin. Whether that is through all my miners, you know what I'm saying? It's probably a miner. Anyway, my miner, right? My new miner, I didn't hook this one up yet. I got another couple of blunts over here, though. Y'all can't see them off screen, but my new miner, So anyway, but I believe in, stacking sats, and minding my business. If you want to trade price action, that's fine. God bless you. But the only thing that I trade pretty much is I buy leaps long term, and I trade SPY day in and day out. That's why they call me SPY Reese Gibson, but I digress. You know what I'm saying? They call me SPY in the family stone, but anyway. Anyway, that's what it is, man. So any other thoughts, man, you want to get out? Let's see what Pat said. We got the Vogel 3 fund is outdated now because it includes international and bonds. This is true. I like the premise of it, but the actual application of what they are using is kind of like, and that is always the argument against international. That was the Jack Bogle argument, where he says most stocks are international, so VU takes care of that, and bonds simply suck. Past, we are on the same page. I think bonds are cheeks in 2025. And Jack Bogle, we always make the argument that if you look at the top 500 American companies at this point, they have to be international. So there is no need to be international funds. That's the Jack Bogle argument. Rest in peace, Jack Bogle. Is that miner from Fold? Hey, you noticed that, did you, Jake? Listen, man, I'm irresponsibly log Fold. Yes, this is a Fold miner. You know what I'm saying? I'm part of the Fold mining club. You already know me and Fold get down. Shout out to all my people at Fold, man, because they actually mess with your boy. You know what I'm saying?
Out here looking like Vanna White, but go ahead.
See, I would unplug my other miner to show you that I have a different type. Matter of fact, I'm just going to turn my computer so you can see.
Just don't let it fall.
I'm going to show you real fast. You know what I'm saying? This is my other miner here. I got the orange joint over here, so it doesn't look like Fold, but I digress. That's actually running right now. That's actually printing out sats, so I didn't want to unplug it to show you. But I got miners all over the place, man. We mine. You know what I'm saying? We run nodes. We node runners. All right. So,
yes, sir. Yes, we have. I am the king of the family business trilogy. But I blame Jimmy, though.
And you are about to set Kamari off on a whole tangent that has nothing to do with ETFs.
LC dunking for the win, baby.
You're talking to two people who are so far deep in Carl Weber's universe, Paul's, that me and Kamari be having conversations about the characters as if they're real people. We have read every book, and I have watched the show.
Literally.
Now, here's the thing I'll tell you about the show, though. The show is cheeks compared to the books. That's just a fact.
Super cheeks.
The show cannot touch the books at all. The books are crazy. The stories are better, more character development. It's like what, 10 books at this point? In 2024, me and Kamari,
7, right? I thought it was 7.
Yeah, but then you got the side notes too, though. You got the
spin-offs, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. The Vegas book. You know what I'm saying? Where he'll finish in school. Anyway, but you about to set us off, and but yeah. So shout to our family business. Who ran a black owned business. You know what I'm saying? They also invested in ETFs.
Now, what I do have to do, I guess I got to get BET Plus to watch the seasons. But this, man, this show is so, like Jimmy said, it is cheeks in comparison to the books. The books are actually well read, in my opinion.
Yeah,
well written.
Mm-hmm. On average, how much they churn in terms of sats and energy expense per month? So the energy expense is next to nothing. You won't even notice it on your bill. In terms of sats, that's interesting because it all depends upon how you run them. So I have one specifically, I have one downstairs that's literally what I call my lotto miner, where I'm trying to solve an entire block myself. Now, obviously, I'm not participating. It's literally a lotto, right? Because the idea that that little small device can solve when you have people who run full businesses is slim to none. However, there is an opportunity. So that's my lotto miner. The miner I just showed you that's sitting over here right now, that's not a lotto miner. That is participating in a pool where I share the energy that I'm using with a bigger pool. So we do solve blocks literally every day, and I get a fraction of that. So on a course of a week, I can, it all depends. I can make a couple thousand sats or a couple hundred sats. It all depends upon how my pool is doing. This new full one that I have, it's probably a minor. This one right here, I'm going to try a different pool. I'm going to try to use ocean mining pool with that one. You know what I mean? But there's an excellent book I'm reading right now. I'll share this one too. It's called Bitcoin Mining Economics, which breaks down the different ways that you can make money in the mining game. You know what I'm saying?
So should we all be mining, Jimmy?
No, absolutely not. Most people are better off with dollar cost averaging and buying the actual Bitcoin.
Should we create our own pool?
That's something that I'm thinking about and doing more research on, right? And the reason I say that is because, again, if we create our own pool, then we can, if we're able to scale to the point where we can get a lot of people, a lot of energy. And this is the thing about Bitcoin, right? One of the things I love about Bitcoin is saved energy, time, so the idea that it actually takes a proof of work to create Bitcoin is what separates it from all other shit coins, because there's actually something backing it, which is energy in a network. So if we created our own network, that would be something interesting that we can scale it to the point where we are solving blocks. That would be very, very powerful. Brother X is out of control. And shout out to Tretch.
And I gotta say this to you. Tretch does a terrible job at being Brother X. Shout out to Tretch though, because Tretch is Tretch is one of my favorite MCs. Put me on a planet, damn it. But no, he's not Brother X.
I always thought about that
book,
line,
Brother X. Huh?
As a data scientist, I always thought about that line. Put me on a planet, damn it, where all the ladies look like Janet, right?
Like Janet, yes.
Now, if you're on a planet, but if you're in a planet where they all look like Janet, doesn't it kind of devalue the idea of looking like Janet?
No.
All of them look like Janet?
No.
Statistically speaking, it has to.
No.
The thing about Janet is Janet because she's Janet amongst the other non-Janets. When you make everyone Janet, it loses its value.
Listen, leave little Penny out of your data scientist analogies. All right.
No, I'm just saying that's listen. Passes in data, pass works in data. Pass. Am I wrong about that approach? If you're on a planet where everyone looks like Janet,
you are, because
doesn't it lose the value of looking like Janet?
Little Penny is an anomaly, so she gets a pass, and the bar is fire. It's art. Don't mess with that man's art.
The art, it made sense art-wise, and I remember as a kid, like, blah blah blah. But just thinking about that, right? Like the reason Janet has the value of being Janet is because it's Janet amongst a lot of non-Janets. Once everyone is Janet, anyway. If everyone is Penny, no one is Penny. There we go, Don. That's all I'm saying. Like, y'all
not going to besmirch Penny. All right.
All right. So, Ant, what is your approach? What do you think about this as a data engineer? What do you think about it? Do you agree that if everyone is Janet, then why being Janet?
No, but you got to read the whole thing.
I'm a data engineer. I clean the data up before guys like Jimmy get a hold of it. Hey, listen, I don't know.
Because he's going to just run and take it somewhere else, into a whole other planet. He's saying, I want to create a black planet. He's saying, black queens forever, snow bunnies never. This was Umar before Dr. Umar. What we doing?
All right, so Pat says, right? And let's take it back to the ETF. By the way, gold, GLD. Here you go. If you can find gold, and Janet, like rocks on the beach, there is no value. Value is found in scarcity. Value always goes to scarcity, right? Like whether we're talking about keeping it all together, right? Let's keep it all together. We're talking about ETFs, right? So if there's only so many shares left of the ETF becomes more valuable because of scarcity. The same thing with land, the same thing with Bitcoin. Scarcity, value tends to chase scarcity. So, and Lorraine, I like Lorraine's approach too. You can't appreciate the light without the darkness. And she's just saying that's a great way to put it. We're not talking about colorism when she says that. We're just saying that if everybody looks like Janet, it loses value.
Black queens forever.
Jamil is going too far. We're not slandering
black
Janet here.
queens
That's not
forever, snow bunnies never. I said black queens forever, snow bunnies never.
Come on, we can't.
Jamil, you went too far, yeah.
What did Jamil say?
Jamil went too far. You see Jamil's comment? Who the hell want to be with Janet nowadays except for the talents of gold, spices, and precious stones? Listen, man, Janet's still giving young chicks a run for their money. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Don says that Janet from Poetic Justice is the GOAT. Listen, I'm not gonna argue with him. She's amongst the table of God.
Listen, I love y'all. Like, y'all mess up everything.
All of our righteous conversations go to pop culture.
A great bar, and then boom, data science.
No, because I've always thought about that. I've always thought about that. Now I have now I have a community of folks that I can share my crazy thoughts with. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not the only one, right? So
you're not. You're not.
This is the great thing about our audience in our village is the fact that I'm not the only one with these wild thoughts. But I've always thought about that. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. This is right. These are facts. These are the facts. Listen, man, this has been an excellent episode, man. Shout out to everybody in the village. If you're not in the village, go to blackwealthrebels.com. We have different tiers. We have free tiers. If you want to join the free tier, that's fine. We're just trying to get our numbers up over in the village. We have content that's over there as well. We're getting ready to go back there now and talk about what we're looking at this week in the options market. But give me Reby. What? Oh, did he slander Janet to give Reby props? Is that what he did right there? All right, man.
So Reby can still get it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but you're not gonna slander Janet to give Reby props, though.
Okay.
Brother Nate, moving the community forward.
Y'all are a mess.
And Pass is not lying either, too. That's exactly what he was trying to do. He was trying to rhyme Planet, and Janet, that just worked. The bar worked.
Yes.
I mean, listen, I'm not lying about the bar worked. Yeah, it's a fire bar. But we being
listen, Tretch is, in my opinion, one of the greatest MCs ever. Often overrated. If you go
underrated.
If you go back and listen to some Queen Latifah, if you listen closely, you'll see that Tretch wrote those. And it's not even a. I
mean, listen, if you listen to a lot of Eminem's cadence and flows, he's stealing directly from Tretch. Well, I mean, he actually admits it too, so it's not like
Yeah, he said that. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, he was ahead of his time in terms of that. Like, and he was able to make anthems. Like the thing about Naughty by Nature is they have legit anthems that still go crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, and we all know Vinny wasn't writing this, but shout out to Vinny though, man. Vinny's my guy, man. No, Vinny was cool. I met Vinny several times. Me and Vinny used to be at all the rap battles together. Vinny was a huge battle rap fan, and he used to always be in the crowd with me. So shout out to Vinny though. But anyway, man, this has been another excellent show. Go to blackwealthrebels.com. This week I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna make another Stack Stats video. I'm getting my health back. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting back together. I'm about to go hook up this minor. Get ready for the Super Bowl, man. Shout out to the Eagles, man. We about to bring it home for Jerome.
So that's your prediction.
I mean, listen, man. I'm not gonna say nothing else on air. Are you kidding me?
I just want to see how crazy you was.
Listen, man, it's good for the city. It's good for the economy of the city, man. You know what I'm saying? Tenants get excited, pay rent early. You know what I'm saying? We need to create a show, find some of our friends that are landlords, and we can do a one show with our craziest tenant stories. Because I'm pretty sure that would be a phenomenal show.
I think we should actually do that live.
That'd be a phenomenal show. We just had our sister Camille on the webinar.
Yeah, we can get Camille to lead that up.
Yeah, man, we do our craziest tenant stories. I can
tell you my lesbian. Shout out to the lesbians. I don't have a problem with. Let me shut up.
Yeah, you about to say something wild. I don't know what you was getting ready to say, but I was sitting there like with bated breath, like Paul's like, what is he about to say? Like, I don't know how he went from this to this. Like, where did you get?
Because it's one of my crazy tenant stories.
Listen, man.
So I walked in.
I've told my crazy tenant story several times about the tenant running a back page house on one of my cribs. I told that story.
No, what is Backpage?
What is Backpage?
I don't know what that is.
Backpage doesn't exist any longer, allegedly. I wouldn't know if it does or not, but it used to be a site where you can go on the internet and you can hire someone to spend intimate time with you. And
oh wow!
One of my
I missed all that.
You missed those days, huh? I mean, allegedly that's what it was.
I never knew all about that.
That's what I heard. So listen, one of my tenants was a young lady. And who come to find out she was a madam. She had a whole site set up, and she would put
so that explains a lot.
She would put ads on the joint. No, I see where you about to go with it. You about to kind of create a whole narrative that's just not true.
I'm not creating nothing.
That's just not true.
You love SW, so I get it now.
No. Just because I don't slander them doesn't mean that I love them. I love all black women, man. Black queens forever, snow bunnies never, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a brother, Burkina Fasoian brother, Shout out to all my Burkinabe sisters out there, man. But listen though, so she was running one out of the crib. The cops called me and asked me all kinds of questions, and I tell the story honestly. Like when I found out, I didn't know, but it also made sense because. No, peep this though. Funny thing is when I found out, it actually made sense because she always paid rent mad early. I never had no issues out of it.
With mad ones.
Yo, sometimes it was cash. I ain't gonna lie to you, right? But she paid rent mad early. So the cops was like, "How do you not know?" I was like, "Dog, she's the perfect tenant." I said, "I never have any complaints other than," and the only reason that
somebody got into a fight.
Yep, it was a dude. Some dude fell in love with one of them, and he went crazy. He was trying to take her out. Whole nonsense.
I'm in love with a stripper.
Yeah. Not a stripper, but her whole business ended up, she was operating in the underworld, man. So she ended up.
What part of the city was this?
Alney. And rest in peace to that tenant because she ended up dying later on. And it's something that was some car theft ring in the underground. She was fully in the underground, which I had no idea because she had a little part-time nursing job and she was a PHA tenant. So, but she had she was a full gangster. Come to find out. Anyway, so I got some wild stories, man. That's just one story. So we're gonna do that eventually.
No, so what I was going to say was I had evicted a tenant. I went in to go change the locks. She was there sleeping. It was early morning, maybe 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. I find her in bed with her lover. Mm-hmm. I immediately walked out because I don't mess around because I feel like as a man in those situations, you can't win. So I just left immediately.
Good. That was a good choice by you. That was a good choice by you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So it was like, y'all been evicted because you wouldn't pay your rent. So,
yeah. So we got some more comments. List crawler. Yo, Jamil, you putting people out there, man. List crawler. And there's also one called, but now those things will always exist, allegedly.
What up, Thunder? Morning.
What's good? What's good? Money Mar.
Yo, that's a dope name. I had to borrow that.
It's kind of steal the name right off rip.
I ain't gonna steal his name, but I mean he got what 2 R's. Maybe I just do 1 R.
Oh, here you go. Okay, Uncle Murder.
By the way, I would never be Uncle Murder. I think Uncle Murder sucks. By the way, but.
I'm not gonna start this with you, man. Listen, man. You said they blowing them checks, huh? Listen, man, that's the world's oldest profession, man. So, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Man. So listen, this has been about ETF. We went from ETFs to Tretch to Backpage we were all over the place today. And that's okay. That's okay.
The prostitution.
That's okay. I'm surprised there's not an ETF though that not necessarily that talks about the underworld, but the ETF that does adult content. It probably is. I just don't know about it because the amount of money in traffic that some of those sites make are ridiculous. I haven't looked in years, but every time I would always look and see what are the top sites in terms of traffic, and it'd be like Google. The top 5 would be like Google, in like 4 other porn sites.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the porn sites are not part of tradable investments.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be.
Here's the fugaziness in there. Not fugaziness, right? I think they are, but they aren't. I understand that there's certain things that you can't trade. I get that, right? But when you look at some of the sites now, when you start to peel back the layers of who owns them, and I saw this on a random YouTube video, the dude was breaking down how some of these banks are now the ones that own them. So they not directly on the exchange, but they are via their ownership, right? They create these entities and then other shell entities, like the company that owns like Prawn Hub, I shall say, is backed by like JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs through a shell company. Like, it's crazy.
Probably, I believe that.
Yeah, it's a crazy
as much as you mentioned Jada Fire, excuse me, we should figure out something. You got a connection.
Because I show the legend respect doesn't mean what you think it means. I just say that she should be respected. She's
then?
As one of the top entertainers of her time. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
That's all I was saying, man. So Thunder says, I came in on the end of that story and make me think about Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold him, when to fold him, know when to walk away, and know when to run.
Know when to run. You got to count your money when you're sitting at the table. Never count your money.
This is always true. And Pat says that the sites always let in tech. They do. They tell you where tech is going, whether that's VHS over Betamax or whether that's just using the internet in general. Happy birthday, Saquon.
Oh boy, look at that.
Money Mar, Jada doesn't get her flex. That's all I was saying.
Don't mess up the Mar legacy with this, man.
That's all I was saying. Happy birthday. Yo, it's by the way, man, for y'all people that did what y'all did to Saquon's wife this week, y'all kind of, hey, what's up? She said it's lucrative. It definitely is lucrative. Listen, Saquon's wife, right? And Saquon, well, I shouldn't say wife because I don't think they're married yet. His baby mom, right? He's a bunny hopper, right? So leading up to the Super Bowl, folks went and dug up all her old tweets.
Talking about this story?
They went and dug up all her old tweets, and she was saying some disgusting stuff. But that's why we say, what we say. That's why we say what we say, man.
Black queens forever, snow bunnies never. I said black queens forever, snow bunnies never. I said black queens forever, snow bunnies never.
Shout out to the Eagles, man. Shout out to Saquon.
Shout out to the Eagles, man. But you gotta chill. You gotta stop bunny hopping. Oh, what happened?
It's too late. Huh? He's got 2 babies. He's got 2 black babies now with this Snow Queen.
Yeah,
what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Hey, listen, that's that Penn State thing though. He went to Penn State. It happens. It happens. But black queens forever. Yeah, I'm saying black queens forever. Snow bunnies never. All right, y'all. Listen, we love y'all. If y'all are not, I'm gonna say it one last time before we get out of here, man. Because if y'all are not members of the Village, please go join the Village. And you can do that by going to blackwealthrebels.com. That is how you join the Village. Just look at the bottom of the screen. Go to blackwealthrebels.com, join the Village. We have free tiers, paid tiers. You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to sell you anything, but we always got something for sale. So go back there. So random fact: Heather Hunter and Dynamite of Blacktail put me on to become a talent agent for clubs and a driver for bachelor parties back in Detroit circa. I know he got some stories.
He got mad stories to tell.
You got some stories. So were you partying with the former mayor?
Probably.
Because I heard some stories about his parties. Like
Kwame is off the hook, by the way. But
were you chilling with the mayor back then, Jamil? Like, let me find out. Let me find out, man. Anyway, with that being said, go to blackwealthrebels.com. Make sure to join the Village. We will be back there in a second. About to go cook up something else back there now. But listen, man, we appreciate y'all, man. We love y'all. Next Sunday, we back here with another class because we're here every Sunday. Wednesday is Wealthy Wednesdays. Friday is Freedom Fridays. We got content that drops in the Village throughout the week. A lot of dope classes back there. A lot of real estate classes back there in terms of real estate valuation. I still got a business credit class that's already done. I got to put back there. I'm not doing it. We got sister doing it. We got a lot of stuff back there, man. So just make sure you go back there. BlackWealthRebels.com. BlackWealthRebels.com. One more time, come on. BlackWealthRebels.com. We love y'all. Have a great week, and stack some ETFs, y'all.
Later, y'all.
Peace.